Hello, and welcome to Victory Point Gaming. This is another Let's Analyze Ark Nova video, and today we are going to be analysing a game that we played yesterday against Tolopka. Really fun person to play a game with and chat to, and we did win this game. However, I felt like there were some improvements that I could have made, particularly in the first two rounds. The video was uploaded with the title of A Perfect Storm on YouTube, and that's because I felt like it went really well for me. We were drawing well, it was going well, but like I say, there might have been things that I could have done better, so let's take a little look. So my initial plan was, we're on Hollywood Hills, we have Sponsored Zoo and Research Zoo, it's kind of synergistic with Hollywood Hills, and I had the idea that I wanted to go to Species Diversity 5 if possible, because there's a big difference between 5 and 2. And I wanted to play and release this bird. So that seemed to pan out quite well. I kept this for the tag, I kept this for reptile tag, and I started with a build. Now, build is in strength 5, so it makes sense to build big rather than build small. I didn't really want to make a size 1 enclosure, so I made a big enclosure, and that's fine. Now, what I didn't realise is that I could put this bird into there and then release it. So, for some reason, I thought I had to build a size 1. Don't ask me why. So I end up building a size 1 now. Now, this is an inaccuracy, but it ends up working out okay because I end up drawing a size 1 creature that I really want to play. So, another line would have been to wait for a build to be upgraded and then do a more reasonable thing. Here, cards. I could draw 3 or I could snap, and if I snap, I'm probably going to snap this because once I play and release this bird, I'm not going to have any appeal. So this is what I was thinking. For that reason, I took this particular sponsor. And the sun bear comes down, so I would have drawn the sun bear. So you could definitely consider that to be an inaccuracy as well. So blue takes a sponsor, the Experts in Africa. It's reasonable, I don't know what they have in their hand. At this point, I play my animal. Now, this is probably inaccurate. It's probably correct to play this sponsor. You could argue that the animal is going to do perception, and for that reason, I might draw a better sponsor, but honestly, I think just playing this would be best. So I play my animal, draw some stuff, and aha, a really nice creature. This is a size 1 creature, requires Asia Handshake, but such a great creature overall. Blue plays down their sponsor, and now I make a mistake. So they do their release of patents and upgrade sponsors, yeah. At this point, I feel like I want to sponsors, and I end up sponsoring this one, and that is because I was thinking about the appeal, problem at the end of the round, and not thinking about what's the most optimal use of my sponsor card. I should have played this one. I have plenty of time now, they just move sponsors to the bottom, so the round's not going to end, so I should have played this one. So, definitely wrong, that, I would say. Okay, so I play down the water playground, getting an X token. I feel like that's fine. I could have gone here, but I would rather claim something great when I do that. Here I could take the petting zoo animal, which is perfectly fine, gives an X token as well, and a new icon, but it's not what I want to do. So blue goes ahead and plays a creature, and at this point I can go ahead and release my bird. Now, I have options here. I end up taking the association worker, which I think is fine, considering that I'm only low on this track, and if I was on 5, 6, 7, I would maybe not take the association worker and take something else, but under the circumstances, it's all good. Now, I haven't thought this far ahead, but because I have this size 1 now, it makes it a little bit easier for me not to upgrade build, which factors into my decision and I end up upgrading sponsors. So while building the size 1 was not perhaps the best use of the action at the time, it does mean that now I don't have to build urgently. Blue plays their expert on Africa. And at this point, I haven't quite computed what I'm going to do with my next association. Looking at it now, it's quite obvious that I need to take Asia because this needs Asia, this needs Asia, excuse me, and obviously Asia is good. But in my mind, I'm thinking about universities. I want universities, and I'll explain why in a minute. But for that reason, I'm thinking universities. For that reason, I'm thinking I want to get my association for this round. And so I feel like carding, I don't really need the card, so I'm considering getting rid of it, either for drawing cards or getting an X token. And I'm feeling like the X token is going to make it more likely that I can associate for this round. So I end up getting an X token now. This might be a mistake. Generally speaking, getting rid of a card for an X token is considered to be not the best use of an action. But it can be hard to evaluate that because X tokens can be critical at certain junctures, and it's often much later than when you actually get the token. So it can be hard to say if it was important or not. Here, I'm playing the sponsor, and I think it's only actually at this point that I realize actually I want Asia. So I go ahead and I take Asia now. And I'm not really thinking more than one move ahead here or two, so I now realize I'm pretty close to being able to play this, and it would be so good if I could play this round. Upgrading build ASAP is good, but also with jumping 4, I might be able to get some cash. And at this point, I may or may not be able to sponsors for money. I look at it and I realize I can. The round's going to end, so I sponsors for money. And I should be able to play this. Unless they cards. Oh no, the round might end actually. They could have sponsored, but they don't. So I end up playing the animal, and that pans out well. So all in all, a good first round for me. I even get to trigger the break with my jumping, upgrade a card, and I'm doing pretty well on the reputation track. I'm feeling good. Alright, so this Sunbear is going to drop into reputation range is the other consequence of that sequence, which means I can potentially take it with this reputation bonus, which is what I go ahead and do now. Blue decides they would like hand size, and I go ahead and build Gleeful that I can take the Sunbear. So we place the size 1 next to water, thinking ahead there. Then we put the kiosk there. We could have put the kiosk there actually, now that I think about it. But then the size 1 wouldn't have been next to water, no. That does make sense what I did. That's a reasonable sponsor that I draw. And then I decided to put the size 2 up here. I could have gone for here, but I feel like the cash is going to be important, and as it turns out, it was. I don't play the pavilion, and I never felt like I had a big disadvantage by not doing so, because I'm a bit concerned about money. As it turns out, this was correct. Here, I end up associating. Now, I have learned relatively recently that association for universities is strong, particularly at the beginning of the game. Now, I knew that a lot of players were going hard for Reputation 5, and one way to do that is to get these 2 universities and also a placement bonus, and it's relatively easy to upgrade 2 cards that way. So it's very nice, people like to do that. The thing that I didn't realise is that it gets harder and harder to justify getting universities later in the game, because as time goes on, I'm going to be wanting to use my association card to support these projects. So for that reason, when association gets to 4, in the next couple of rounds, I'm going to be wanting to associate for conservation project. So the opportunity cost of associating for 4 increases as time goes on. So for that reason, it's nice to get your universities early, so then you don't regret not using it for conservation later. So that factors into my decision here, and I want to take that university. That works out okay. But I know that my next move is not a good one. Here, I decide to use upgraded sponsors at level 4 to play this lion, and I don't think that's correct. What I should have done is drawn cards off the top. Because I have sponsors at 4 and 3 X tokens, the likelihood is I will draw a sponsors card that I can play together with this one. Now, I could potentially play one of these. I don't really want to. I can't play that, and I don't really want that one, for reasons that I explained in the actual original video. But I should definitely draw cards here, because I might draw something that I want to play more than this, or I can play this and something else. What I end up doing is I just play the sponsor. Now, blue ends up carding now, as I could have probably predicted, so it does affect the cards that I draw. As it turns out, I draw a nice sponsor with a bird tag on it. But objectively speaking, I should have drawn first. So I wouldn't have drawn that card. Blue drawing in between affected that. So I can't say for sure that if I wouldn't have had this had I cards when I could have cards, but it was definitely correct for me to card first without all that information. So now I go ahead and sponsor to get this down, because I realize that I'm now, having played this, 2 tags away from doing animals species diversity 5, I should say. And I can do it in combination with the sun bear. So the cash, this is going to give me a little bit of extra cash, enabling me to play both of these creatures this round. So it actually worked out well the way I've done it. So we go ahead and animals, playing both of those creatures into an association action to claim species diversity 5. And I think we can more or less wrap up the analysis video there. And I can give you the summary of what happened in this game. We end up playing this bird into here, and we eventually release it using migration recording here. We get Asia 4, we get reptiles 5. And as you can see from this conservation, we've taken first choice of the bonuses along that. So really, it was a very, well, it was a type of game where everything went our way. We did, to a certain extent, make our own luck by giving ourselves opportunities to play things. But there were places where we could have still been more optimal. You could argue that I should have drawn cards off the top instead of snapping this. You could argue that I should have cards off the top before sponsoring. I would agree that was definitely objectively correct. I got lucky that I drew this, to be honest. But objectively, I should have drawn first to give myself the chance of being able to play 2 sponsors. So there were certainly inaccuracies along the way, and certainly playing the sponsors 3 when I had sponsors card in slot 4 was definitely not correct. So there were things to be learned. We did end up winning this game, and it was a good game, enjoyable game. But I feel like that's quite interesting to see that even in 2 rounds where we did actually successfully support 2 conservation projects in 2 rounds, which is always noteworthy. It went well. It could have gone better. One thing I will say is that taking handshakes from map bonuses is really nice. Either map bonuses or conservation track bonuses. To get handshakes or universities when it can be your second handshake or university is such a speed boost. I haven't really given it enough credit, but to be able to get accelerated, particularly upgrades, is fantastic. So I need to focus that more in the future. Alright, that's about the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please feel free to write them down below, and subscribe if you haven't. I don't generally ask people to subscribe, but if you do subscribe, it'd be lovely. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more Ark Nova stuff. See you next time.